Well, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So, I have now moved like a third of the way across Canada, which by the way is a very large country, twice now. And since I have done this 18-hour move halfway across the country twice, I have received a lot of questions about it. Most likely because I did the move with 50 animals both times, so I can see why people have questions. Both times I've moved, I've had a lot of people ask me if I filmed the move and when I'm going to show that and everything, so today I'm going to be telling you how I managed to move myself and 50 animals like a third of the way across Canada twice. Now unfortunately, I am a really bad YouTuber, and I basically didn't film any of my moving process at all. I'm sorry. So anyone who is watching this video who makes YouTube videos or any other kind of content probably knows that if you are filming yourself doing something, doing that thing is going to take 3 times as long with a camera involved. Filming something that you're doing is not as easy as just like setting up the camera and doing it. I mean, like, in some cases it can be, I guess, but overall, filming yourself doing things takes a really long time and it just makes the process so much longer. Now again, maybe I'm just a bad YouTuber, but I had so much that I needed to do while I was moving, and because I'm dealing with live animals, I am on like a time crunch when I'm doing this, you know? I don't have days and days and days to start packing up my things. I have live animals that have to be packed like literally last minute right before we leave. So I really just did not have the time to film a whole lot. I did not really have time to film the process because my priority was making sure that all of the animals were safe and healthy and got to our new destination fine. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't really film the moving process. So instead, I am just going to be telling you all how I managed to do it. But as I explain how stressful and just how difficult moving with this many animals is, you will probably start to understand why I did not film anything. Alright, so let's get into talking about the process of moving myself and 50 pets from Ontario to Nova Scotia. So a lot of people are probably curious about how you can possibly do a move this far with so many animals, you know? How do you transport them? How do you make sure that they stay safe and healthy? How do you just even have the time to do that? How do you have the space to transport it? I get it. There's a lot of questions, so that's why we're talking. So moving with a lot of pets is definitely difficult, but it is definitely possible. It is an extremely stressful process dealing with this many animals and making sure that, you know, they are as comfortable as they can be and healthy, and just making sure that, you know, nothing goes wrong. So the way that we transported the animals from Ontario to Nova Scotia was by putting all of the animals in some sort of travel container, and then they all came in the car with us. So the animals moved separately from their enclosures. I did not leave the animals in their enclosure during the move. Leaving the animals in their enclosure puts them at a bigger risk for injury or anything like that. When they're in a large space in a moving car that's, you know, going over bumps and stuff, there's room for them to get flung around, to fall, to do all these things that might hurt them. So when you are transporting the animals, you want to remove them from their enclosure and put them in some sort of transport container. You want to make sure that they have enough space to move comfortably, but you really don't want a whole lot of room in there because, like I mentioned, the more room there is, the more likely your animal is to get injured. So you want them to be in like a nice, comfortable travel container. But let me tell you, it is not as simple as just taking the animal, putting it in its container, packing up the truck, and packing up the animal. You know, essentially that's kind of what you do, but it is stressful, especially when you have animals that are flighty, they're hard to catch, they like to run, they don't like to be handled. It took me nearly 6 hours to pack up all of my animals, and that was with like 4 people helping me. And keep in mind that these are live animals. You don't want them in their travel container for an extended period of time. Ideally, you want the animals to be in their enclosure for as long as possible, which is one of the things that makes it so stressful, because packing up all of my animals is the very last thing we had to do. You know, it was like the very last task before moving, and it took so long. I was up all night long getting my animals packed into their bins and getting their enclosures ready to pack up and move. So now you might be wondering, where is everything going? How are you getting it from Ontario to Nova Scotia? So in order to do this move, we had one large moving truck. I don't know exactly how big it was. It was like 20 feet or something, but either way, it was a pretty big moving truck. And then we had my mom's SUV and then my car. So thankfully my parents were super helpful throughout the move. They really helped with a lot of the process. They both drove up to Ottawa with the moving truck and the SUV to help make this possible. So if you are watching this, thank you very much for all the help. It was really needed. So everything that I owned now needed to go in one of these 3 vehicles. So every single animal enclosure I owned, you know, all of my exoterras and stuff, they all got packed onto the moving truck. So they were all on the big moving truck. We were stacking things and fitting things together. It was like Tetris with 50 exoterras. It's kind of fun packing it, honestly, but like everything's really heavy and it's really stressful, so it's really not that fun, you know? It would be fun if they weren't so heavy and we weren't in such a rush, but anyways, we packed all of the exoterras into the moving truck, and like I said, they were the very last thing to get packed up. So as soon as all the enclosures were in, my dad took off with the moving truck and he was on his way back to Nova Scotia. So as you can imagine, when you have as many reptiles as I do, you have a lot of enclosures. And now most of my enclosures are glass enclosures, which can make moving really difficult because you have to be super careful not to break any of the enclosures. And unfortunately on the move we did end up cracking 2 separate enclosures, but thankfully it's not a huge deal. I have like 10 empty enclosures, so everything is fine, but you do have to be careful and possibly be prepared to have some broken enclosures. So while most of the enclosures did get here completely fine, you know, I have like 40 of them, so like 2 out of 40 cracking isn't that bad, but you know, it's still a loss that you have to prepare for. And you know, like, you have to prepare, like, what if your animal's enclosure cracks? What are you gonna put them in when you get to your new place? You know, you have to be prepared for things like that. So then I was still at the house with all of the animals in their travel bins, which we now had to start packing up into my car. So basically what we did was all of the reptiles went into my mom's SUV. There was enough room in the back that we were able to fit all of their bins nice and comfortably, and they were all nice and secure, so none of them were moving around or anything. And that is how all the reptiles got packed up. And then my dog, Alaska, and then my cats, Misty and Oryx, and my 2 bunnies, Thumper and Peanut, they all came in my car. So they were all in the back of my car. So there were a lot of animals inside of these vehicles. It was a lot, but everyone fit, everyone was comfortable, and everyone was nice and safe. So I'm really pleased. So I feel like the way that I am talking about this process makes it sound like it was really simple and straightforward. And to be honest, it really was straightforward. Like, we didn't really run into any difficulties or anything other than just getting really stressed out and getting like no sleep at all. We barely had any sleep because, like I said, I was up literally all night long packing the moving truck, packing the animals up. It was a lot. And I had a whole team of people there helping me the night before. Like, the night before we left, I had a total of like 6 to 8 people in the house at various times, just all helping me pack up my animals, pack up the basement, get all the enclosures on the truck. So thank you so much to all of my friends who helped out. I truly appreciate it so much. You guys were amazing, so thank you all. But yeah, like I said, the process is pretty straightforward. It just takes a super long time, and by that I'm meaning like 24 hours. So you just don't have time to sleep or anything, and you know, stress and anxiety and all that is just flowing through your head. So that is why I didn't really film the process. And the process doesn't end there. So once everything is finally in the car and ready to go, we get going. But from there, it is about a 15-hour drive. But when you have a bunch of animals like dogs and cats who need bathroom breaks, and you know, humans who also need to eat and have bathroom breaks, it takes a lot longer than 15 hours. With as many animals as we had and the stops that we had to make, it took us about 18 hours total to get from Ottawa to our destination here in Nova Scotia. And we were not on the schedule that we planned to be on. We originally planned to leave Ottawa around 7 or 8 in the morning, so then we would arrive in Nova Scotia, you know, before midnight, but that didn't happen. We needed a lot more time the day of. So, well, we wanted to leave at around 7 or 8 in the morning. We did not end up leaving until about 4:30 in the afternoon, which then meant that we were completely driving through the night. We left Ottawa at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then we arrived in Nova Scotia at about 11:30 the next morning. Everything that day was just really crazy, and that is why I didn't really film anything. So I am sorry if you came here expecting a moving vlog, but I hope that you at least understand now why that is not really possible, and I hope that you found this video enjoyable, even if it's not really what you were expecting. Moving with a lot of animals is hard, but it is possible. If you are watching this video because you are moving with animals, my advice to you would just be very careful. Make sure you're taking your time with everything and just prioritize your animal's safety and comfort and well-being. Both times I've moved so far, I have not lost a single animal on the way, which is really good, because when you are traveling that far and with this many animals, who knows what is going to go on. But I promise you that if you really take your time and put your animal first, everything should hopefully be okay. We did have one little issue though, where Rocky, my milk snake, actually escaped his travel bin in our car. We discovered on our very first stop, which was, you know, about 3.5 hours into the drive, that Rocky had gotten out of his container and was loose somewhere in the car. So I started freaking out then. We looked around for a while and we could not find him anywhere, and at this point we knew he was somewhere in the car, but you know, we couldn't spend 4 hours sitting in a parking lot looking for him and tearing everything apart. So we just had to keep going and hope that we found him when we unpacked the car, and thankfully we did. We ended up finding him stuck up in one of the car seats. It took Josh nearly like 45 minutes to get him out of the car seat, but thankfully he managed to. Rocky was completely unharmed. He didn't have any injuries or anything. He was just hanging out up in the car seat. But other than that, we did not really have any issues with the move. The first time I moved, we had a flat tire. That was not fun. So thankfully this one went a little bit smoother, I guess, if you would consider a snake getting out smooth. But I don't know. In the grand scheme of things, when you think about how much was going on, how much stress I was feeling, the lack of sleep we all had, how many animals were here, I think that considering every animal here made it safely, and we only had 2 enclosures crack, I think that that was a success for the most part. So don't expect everything to be 100% perfect if you are doing something like this, but if you really take your time and think about it and plan things, it's not as intimidating as you think it might be. It's not fun, I will promise you that, but it's not gonna be the end of the world. It's not that terrifying, you know? It's just be prepared to not sleep a whole lot and to be a bit stressed out, but it'll be okay. So with all of that said and done, I am going to go ahead and end this video here. I do really hope that you enjoyed watching, like I said, even if it's totally different than what you expected, but I don't know, sorry. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and also be sure to subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out and it costs you nothing, so make sure you do that. Also be sure to check out all of my social media. All of my social media will be down in the description below, but it is pretty much all just EmmaSam99, and I would love to have you guys over there, so make sure you check that out. With all that said and done, thank you guys so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next video.